Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome back to a live episode of the Social Selling Sisterhood podcast. I am Lindsay Dollinger, and I am so excited for this interview today and for you guys to meet Jared Ledford. Jared is my upline and Color Streets husband. He is super active in their business, which we will get into today on our interview, and he's going to give us a husband's perspective on direct sales, which I think is very largely missing a ton in our industry. So, Jared, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
I'm good, Lindsay. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you. Thank you.
Good.
Okay, Jared, for us to get started, will you just kind of give us a little bit of a backstory? Like, how did you and Jessica, because I believe you were in our company before Color Street. So, how did you guys get started? What did that look like? And how did you get to where you guys
Correct.
are today?
Well, I had been interested in direct sales for quite a while. I had always been kind of looking for that next opportunity. Had been in retail sales for a long time and kind of transitioned more to a customer service rep and then commission sales, and was always kind of, when you're a salesman, you're always kind of looking for that next move.
Mm-hmm.
So for myself, it was, we kind of bounced around multiple different direct sales opportunities and nothing was really sticking for us. Especially something that we couldn't work together. So I think from my perspective, I was working, 50, 60 hours a week doing commission sales. I didn't have the time nor the energy to invest in something on my own with, direct sales or multi-level marketing, whatever you want to call it. I just didn't have the time. And honestly, maybe at that time really didn't have the desire. Maybe I was looking at a pipe dream that wasn't there, looking at an opportunity that wasn't quite there, and it just wasn't the right time. And, I think from Jessica and I's perspective, it's a perfect example of the right time for you to jump in on something. And we were in opportunities that really, looking back on it, if we had invested ourselves and given it our all, maybe we would have been 2 or 3 years ahead of the curve for direct sales. But I think everything kind of ended up where it needs to be. We're very happy where we're at. Jessica and I, we met in high school, and we've been together ever since. And now we're working this business together, and it's great. But as far as our
I love
background,
that.
we had opportunities. We just never really seized the advantage or seized the opportunity, if you will. So
Yeah, I get that. Well, and I feel like you had some really good points. It has to really mesh. Like it has to be the right time. You have to be in the right mindset, all kinds of things. But also there's that longevity as well, right? Because
sure.
I know, like, even for me, I've hopped around to several different companies before I fell on Color Street. And it's really where, I want to be and I love it. But I
It's
know
no different.
it's a long game.
Yeah, it's no different than anything else. I mean, you start off in any job and you may switch jobs a couple times before you find the job that you really like and what's comfortable for you. I think the stigma that gets attached to multi-level or direct sales is that once you're in something, you've been so invested in it. You've got your friends, family, your closest neighbors, all of your closest contacts kind of invested in you doing this one particular thing, and then you jump over to something else. And if you do that more than once or twice, you kind of start looking like that person that can't really get comfortable with something, can't, is the company that you were selling for, is it stable? Was it the company or was it you? And I think if you are kind of in a murkiness or in a position with the direct sales that you're not necessarily having the best success with or not that comfortable with, I would just be honest. I mean, I've seen it a lot here lately with people that are jumping around and trying to find exactly what works best for them. I think it's more or less just be honest. I mean, I recently, within the last year, left a job that I'd been at for 10 years and loved, but it was one of those things where it was a simple Facebook post. I just made it public that, hey, I still really support this company, still really love what I was doing there. It was just the right time for me to move on. With COVID and everything else, it was an opportunity to be home and be with my kids, and an opportunity to be at home with the family and jump in head first into this direct sales thing. And I'll tell you, I mean, it's been a blessing for us. And sometimes it's just being honest and coming out and saying it and moving on from it. You don't have to carry that baggage. Just lay that baggage down and move right on from it. So I think that's the best advice I can give you if you're jumping back and forth or thinking about moving on. Maybe just move on and jump in head first.
Well, and that's the biggest thing I think that I see when people are really excited about joining any company and then they don't immediately, it's either not as simple as they thought it was going to be, or people aren't buying from them. And it's that going in head first. Like you kind of have to get a little bit uncomfortable, be
Mm-hmm.
coachable, do the things, because if you don't, you're not going to see success with any company.
Absolutely.
you know?
I agree with that 100%. I think with, from my perspective, it was just finding the right product, finding the right target audience, finding the right time to jump in and say, okay, when we were doing this originally, we didn't have any kids. All of our free time, we were vacationing. We were doing things in our early 20s, mid 20s that we didn't necessarily want to give up. And when it was time, when we went from no kids to 3 kids in 13 months, I mean, we had our oldest daughter and then we had twins, and that was all in 13 months. So, I mean, you learn really quick that you have to transition into more of an adult life. And I mean, that's, one of the major benefits that we had in our early 20s, mid 20s is we didn't have any kids. Jessica and I were married for, I'm trying to think, 8 years before we had any kids. And we'd been together for 3 or 4 years prior to that. So, I mean, we had all these opportunities to vacation and do things and be together and grow and learn. And I mean, honestly, we wouldn't be where we're at if we hadn't failed a half dozen times before. I mean, you take those opportunities, it's an opportunity cost that you incur by learning those life lessons or taking that risk. And we wouldn't be where we're at if we hadn't risked it. I mean, we wouldn't have known the intricacies that come along with trying to run your own business. I mean, that's really what this is all about. I mean, you can call it whatever you want, but you're running your own business. So, I always look at it, I try to explain to people it's like a franchise. You're a franchisee for these for these bigger companies. Whatever you're doing, direct sales or multi-level, you're like a franchisee. You're kind of tied to the rules and regulations that they have. They're going to take a percentage of your sales. They're going to give you a commission. All of these things. I mean, it's just people overthink direct sales. They really do.
Yep.
People want to
Yeah.
stigmatize it and they want to make it this evil thing. And it really just boils down to, do you want to run a business in the confines of a structure? And it's really built for people to do on a really whatever kind of schedule you want. If you want to do it full time, if you want to do it part time, I would say 99% of the time you're going to get out of it what you put in it. I mean, if you're not putting any effort forth, you're not going to get anything out of it. I mean, that's just, there are people that make a lot of effort and they're not successful. And that's just the truth of it. I mean, it's like that anywhere. Any job that you look at, you could be making the best effort. You could be the best employee. I've been there. I've been on that side of the ball where you just don't get noticed. You don't get that promotion that you were longing for. And it's a struggle. I'll be honest with you. It's not the most fun in the world. And I think a lot of times it's just accepting that, kind of like what we were talking about with direct sales in general, to kind of circle back and say, maybe this isn't the right time for me here. Maybe this isn't the right opportunity, the right product, the right people, the right upline, whatever the reason is. I'm sure there's opportunities out there. It's just being open to finding it, right?
Yeah, 100%. And okay, so the majority of the people listening, I think, if my podcast demographics are correct, are women.
Sure.
And they might not quite be in a direct sales business yet. Maybe they have an Etsy shop, maybe they're coaches or whatever, and they've been kind of thinking about it. So, from the husband's perspective, what are some things that I'm trying to think of how I want to word this, like they can bring up to their spouse, or I don't want to say like sell it, but sometimes I feel like people do have to sell or explain themselves why they want to maybe give this a try, and talk maybe a little bit about like the actual risks, because I know at least for our company there is a kit fee. Compared to some other companies, it is relatively low. But like, so what are some other things that are into that you can help walk our listeners through that process of talking to their significant other from your perspective, since that happened to you?
Sure. I think a lot of it comes down to just having the conversation in the first place. I mean, being open enough to just talk, right? I mean, I think, a lot of times you get stuck in a vortex or in a vacuum and you're like, oh man, I got to make this decision right now. And, it's whatever the cost is. Some opportunities are low cost, some opportunities are high cost, but it's looking at that cost and saying, okay, do I really want to do this? And then immediately kind of having that discussion. Not When I talk about this a lot, I get the question that automatically comes up is, well, I don't need permission. And I'm not asking you to
Mhm.
ask for permission. I'm not asking you to,
Mhm.
I'm not telling you to ask for permission. What I'm doing is have a dialogue, have a conversation.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. I was not real high when Jessica came to me, I was not doing backflips. I'll be honest. I appreciated her talking to me about it, and
Yeah.
she'll tell the story a little differently than me. We were cap strapped. I mean, we were paycheck to paycheck.
Mhm.
We were not struggling financially. I mean, we were both working good jobs. We were both making good money, but we had 3 babies, and we had the financial responsibilities of a household and all that kind of stuff. And so we were,
Right.
paycheck to paycheck, hand to mouth, whatever you want to call it. But that discussion was pretty simple. She came to me and said, I want to do this. I think this is the opportunity that I've been looking for. And at the time, she was a manager. She was putting in a lot of time. And I thought, well, she's going to have to do this on her own. And, she's going to have to start this on her own and show
Mhm.
me that she's committed. And that was the discussion that I had. It wasn't, okay, I
Yeah.
don't want you to do this. It wasn't, it's too expensive. It was, okay, look, I'm working 50, 60 hours a week. You're working 50, 60 hours a week. We've got to find a happy balance here. And the balance can't come from me.
Mhm.
Because, I mean,
Yeah.
Jessica would tell you, I am the structure parent. So I
Mhm.
am, of the two of us, I don't think that she would argue that I'm the more involved, interactive parent. I think that's been public for a long time with us, that I take care of the kids, she takes care of the business. And I
Mhm.
work behind the scenes and I try to do as much as I can, but my priority has been and always will be kids first. I think
Yeah.
Jessica's priority is the same, but Jessica also was the breadwinner before we ever got really serious into direct sales. Jessica's been the breadwinner for us for a long time. So I know that that's probably the one dynamic that not every person listening can deal with. I know there's a lot of people that, whatever you're doing, um, I would say congratulations on doing it. And if nobody's giving you a pat on the back, you probably need one. But for me
Yeah.
personally, that was the difference between me and everybody else, was that I was already with someone that was successful, that had been, promoting within her ranks as a nurse and all of that kind of stuff. So I was
Mhm.
already okay with her being the more dynamic one of the two, even though
Yeah.
I think if you met both of us, you would think the exact opposite. You would think, oh man, Jared's dynamic. He's a type A personality. Jessica's an introvert. She's
Mhm.
all these things. But Jessica's so good at managing people,
Mhm.
and working to find people's strengths. And I think part of that is because we have worked together, even when she was a nurse and when I was, in sales or whatever. We always kind of work together to kind of balance each other out, because I can get
Yeah.
really hot headed, really frustrated and upset. She's more mellow. She's definitely more calm
Yeah.
and collected and cool. And, I mean, that's the perfect foil for us. Now, as far as, what your listeners are probably dealing with is, there's probably a lot of them that are not the breadwinner. Probably a lot of stay-at-home
Mhm.
moms. Probably a lot of people who are working part-time anyway. Especially with COVID, who knows? What a lot of people are having to deal with, and we're lucky, and we've been lucky, and I'm very thankful for the opportunities that we've had. But I think if you're really wanting to do something, step number one is communicate. You have to be open and open that line of communication. I know not always it doesn't it's not always going to work out the way you want it to. But I think if you start that conversation on an honest, forthright, hey, I really like this opportunity, or hey, I want to start this Etsy store, hey, I want to start a boutique, hey, I got this opportunity to, whatever the opportunity is, and not just sales. I mean, this is everything in your life, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Jessica and I have a very business-like marriage. That's how we operate. Everything that we
Mhm.
do comes to the table. I mean, we lay everything out at the table and we discuss it, every decision we make. And
Yeah.
I would encourage you to do that more often if you're not doing it. I think most people probably do have
Yeah.
the conversations, but if you're not, I would highly recommend it. Highly recommend it.
Well, and I think one of the things that I hear, and now I'm not married, so I don't have that dynamic where
Sure.
I get to have those conversations with someone about my business. But I think one of the things that I hear a lot from women on my team is that either their husband just doesn't understand, or they would really put more time in their business, but they're not getting necessarily that support for someone watching their kids while they're able to do it.
Sure.
Um,
And
do
we
you
hear
have
that a
any
lot. And
suggestions?
that's
Yeah, I'm
super
sure you
common.
do.
I mean, that's super
Hmm.
common. So we have a large team. I mean, we have a large team at this
Yeah.
point. And I mean, it is, you hear, and it's not, I don't want to say this in a bad way, but a lot of times it's an excuse that you put on yourself. It's the hurdle that you want to put in front of yourself to make it look harder than it needs to be. So from
Hmm.
our perspective, we started our direct sales business, the one that we're currently running, currently operating. We started that both working full-time jobs with 3 kids. I don't even know that the twins were a year old, to be honest with you. So, I mean, you're talking about 3 kids under 2 years old for sure.
Yeah.
When we really started jumping in full time, it was a struggle. Okay. There was a lot of
Yeah.
times that we were up until 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, sleeping 2, 3 hours a night, dedicating,
Hmm.
especially me once we got to a certain point, because Jessica always had the phone on. I mean, she was pretty much an on-call nurse manager. So, I mean, she would get calls in the middle of the night. She would have to go. So, I mean, it's not like she
Right.
could stay up till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning trying to put together, whether Jot form. I remember when we started Jot form. I remember when we started, Linktree, and you're starting all these things and you don't know what you're doing. There's not
Hmm.
a step by step. You can look on, there's YouTube, there's a YouTube for everything, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like,
Right.
using this StreamYard program. We've talked about this before. Every little
Yeah.
intricacy, every little detail, your graphics, everything that you do with your business is important. And when
Hmm.
you're starting from nothing, and that's what we were doing. I mean, we were starting from nothing. It's not like we had somebody holding our hand saying, check this box off, check that box off. And really, we were in a position with a really a startup. I mean, we started
Hmm.
very early, so we were very lucky to be in that position, but also kind of held back and kind of at a less of an advantage than people that are coming into the business now, because they can come in and look at what we've done, and if they have a bigger
Yeah.
social cast, if they have a bigger net to cast out, they're going to be just as successful, right? I mean, I think what it boils down to is you have to be willing to sacrifice. And
Yep.
I think from my perspective, if my wife or my girlfriend or my significant other or whatever relationship that you're in, if they came to me and said, okay, I've been putting all this time in, I would personally have a really hard time looking at them and saying, this isn't going to work, or cutting them down. And I would
Yeah.
never say judge your relationship based on how your business is going. But if you're successful in your business, whatever it is, and your significant other, your spouse, whatever, is not giving you the support you need, that's a problem. I mean, I don't want to
Yeah.
be a therapist. I don't want to get on here and talk about, but I can tell you, I mean, I
Right.
struggle with that from a
Yeah.
husband's perspective, right? I
Hmm.
mean, I struggle with that, and I hear it all the time. And
Yep.
the issue that I have, whenever that comes up, I almost always have to pass that off to Jessica, because
Yeah.
it's not a conversation that I feel comfortable having, and it's not a conversation I should be having, frankly. And that's
Yeah.
maybe something, if there's a husband listening or watching, or if you're sharing this with your husband, I think that that's probably one thing. I don't know that there's anybody on my team that wouldn't say that I'm 100% professional 100% of the time. And that's, from my perspective, that's something that I carry in every part of my life, every facet of my life. So when Jessica came
Yep.
to me with this opportunity, it was, okay, well, how is this going to affect our business, which the business of our life, not just the business of our direct sales or whatever we're doing? How much time
Hmm.
is this going to take away from me? What do you want me to do? And I was open to checking boxes with her, like, hey, I need you to ship out these 2 packages. And this is before you have a label printer. This is before you have access to stamps.com or whatever you're using, whatever program, pirate ship, whatever. I need you to take
That
these
just
packages.
reminded me I need to just reminded me I need to cancel my stamps.com.
Yeah, yeah,
Total side story.
yeah.
I'm writing
I
it.
I mean, that was the big thing. Like, hey, I need you to take these packages to the post office. Hey, I need you to place this order on launch day. Hey, I need you to do this. Hey, I need you to do that. It just eventually became, I was part of the process. And I think a lot of the times, significant others, you do want to ask for that permission. And I don't know that you need to. I think a lot of times, more often than not, it's just a conversation like, hey, I'm doing this. Hey, I might need your help. Hey, I would be happy if you would help me. I think it's more maybe ask for help rather than ask for permission. Because
okay. Oh, go on.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's probably the best little narrative I can give you is ask for help, not permission. Because the more involved I got, the more I was wanting to get involved with the business, the more I saw the benefit of it, the more I was able to keep her motivated to run her VIP space, to run her sales through her customers, while I was doing all of the crap work, really, packaging, shipping,
the admin stuff.
yeah. Once that happened, once she could focus, it was off to the races, really.
I was just so people listening, how can they maybe get their husband involved in their business? Because I do think if there is that buy-in or like even awareness of what you're actually doing, like, okay, well, why do you actually need an hour a night to work your business? And then they're helping you, and then like, oh yeah, I see now what you're actually doing. Do you have any tips on getting husbands started, even if it's something really, really small, to get that buy-in? And then I also want to ask you about the comp plan because I think that
I think there's a humbleness involved. I think that you have to be humble, from the wife's perspective, to be humble enough to say, I need your help. And from the husband's perspective, enough to say, okay, I'm humble enough to help you. And I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna bring you down or make you feel less than. It's all on an equal playing field. Jessica never really had to come to me for help. I was probably the most willing participant. Matter of fact, I probably pushed her harder than she may have wanted to be pushed at certain points, because when you're really starting off early and you're the only person that's doing something, or you're the only person in your area, or you're the only person that's really pushing it. So you could be you could be working a direct sales gig that's been around for 20 years, and you could come up with something that nobody else is doing. And then all of a sudden you're the hottest thing that they've seen in years, right? It doesn't have to be that you're in a startup or that you're in it, at the right moment at the right time. It's always, this is a ground floor opportunity. I hear that all the time. We're starting a new company. There's a ground floor opportunity, yada, yada, yada. It's really about how much you want to put into it, right? And it's really about the effort that you're willing to put forth. And I think from a relationship standpoint, it's really about humbling yourself to say, okay, I'd really like you to help me with this. I really like what I'm doing here. And sometimes, I mean, I've had a couple where they're really successful. They're making good money. They're bringing a lot to the table. I mean, I don't have to, I mean, honestly, I kind of want to just get mad about it for their sake, because I mean, that boils down to a deeper issue. That's a relationship issue, something that has to be taken care of outside of the confines of your business. And ultimately, you might have to be humble enough to say, okay, why are we having this struggle? Maybe you have that discussion, and you don't keep it held in. I think that's a lot of it. And I'll be honest, we've had that conversation with a couple. I would say 50% of them work and 50% of them don't. I mean, that's just being real. But if you don't have the conversation, you're never going to fix it. It's never going to get fixed if you don't bring it up.
Yep. I love that. 100%. And that goes for anything in life, right? Those, there was a book, I think it's called Courageous Conversations. Disclaimer, I didn't get all the way through it, but a boss gave it to me one time because, this was probably about 10 years ago. I was just really struggling with, I don't even know if confronting is the right word, but kind of, when I had an issue with something and bringing it up and having those conversations that aren't necessarily the easiest conversation. But I do love how you talked about getting your husband involved in some of the stuff and how you kind of did that on the back burner, or behind the scenes rather, of your business as you guys have been growing it. talk a little bit about how you guys have worked together to build your team, because I feel as though you and Jessica have done a really great job of having you visible as well, and
Sure.
you showing up in the team space and helping her support us. Whereas I don't know any other team space that I've ever been in or currently am in that the husband is present. So how have you guys done that?
I think for us, we knew pretty well, I would say probably a year, maybe a year and a half into it, that this was going to be bigger than we thought it was going to be. We always thought that we would have an opportunity to make some side money and really hustle and get what what we wanted, which was more income, which was more opportunity. And I think what we did was we looked at the team, and I started looking at downlines and how we could structure the team. And once we really started bringing on some heavy hitting recruiters where the team started to grow exponentially kind of away from us, that's when I kind of came in. So we work for, this is going to be strictly direct sales right now. I work with the half of our team that reports directly to us. So these are the people that we're their first line. In our business, it would be an executive level. That's where I am. I am 100% invested and present in that side of the business. And I become almost the middle management because Jessica's time is beyond valuable. Jessica's still a full-time nurse. She still loves what she does. And it's important to me that she do that. I mean, we paid a lot of money for her to go to school. She's got a master's degree. She still loves being a nurse. I think she loves being a nurse a little bit more than she likes doing sales. I mean, I'm just going to be honest with you. Being a
Hey,
nurse,
that's fair.
being a nurse is her calling in life, and it's a purpose for her, and it's important. And sales is my life. I mean, I've been a salesman since I was 16, probably been a salesman my entire life, to be honest with you. And I was happy with the opportunity that she gave me to do this business, and I jumped in head first. I mean, I think a lot of it boils down to the middle management piece. I'm visible because I have more time. I'm more readily available. I like to talk sales. I'll talk business all day long. I'll schedule the meetings with the leadership. I'll bring them here. We've had them at the house. You've been here. I'm not afraid to meet with just about anybody. If you're a startup and you just started on and you're however many levels down, you might not even affect my business. If you're on my team, I've got you. And I think that's probably the primary difference between not just me and Jessica being in it together or being visible together, but we really do invest in everyone if they want it. And some people don't, some people do. Some people take all that we can give them, some people take nothing. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they're more successful than others. I would hope that they are. But I think a lot of it really boils down to that middle management idea where I've come up and I worked in the automotive industry for the longest time where the dealership structure basically is you have a dealer principal, then you have a general manager, then you have each individual department manager. And from there, I would look at myself almost like a department manager or a general manager, more of a department manager where I can take these little issues. If you have a website issue or you have an order issue or you get damaged product, I can take care of all that. If you have a placement question, if you have recruiting questions, I mean, I do one-on-one training calls, I do team trainings, I do whatever you want. That takes time. Jessica has to schedule her time. I don't. I mean, I do schedule it, but I'm available almost all the time. I mean, we have so many California people now that I almost operate my life on a California schedule. So
I didn't know that. That's funny.
Yeah. I'm pretty much locked in until about 2 a.m. Most days I'm pretty much locked in until 2 a.m. because I will make myself available. I mean, I have to look at it from the perspective of, okay, if I'm in California and I'm working my business and I work till 6 or 7 o'clock at night, in reality, I'm coming home and I'm working my business after I put my kids to bed, if I have that or whatever, from 9 to 11. Right. And I'm trying to be on their schedule. So not only that, but Jessica can't do that. And when I have an issue that I can't handle, okay, I'm going to get the boss. It makes Jessica that much more, I don't know. To me, it builds that much more of legitimacy, because it's not just Jessica taking phone calls about, hey, this package is in transit, or hey, I got these nails and they were damaged, or hey, I got a question on placement. It makes her time that much more valuable, and it also means that I'm directing her time to the place where it's needed the most. I can kind of schedule for her and get her where she needs to be.
You're like filtering. You're filtering some stuff out for her that she doesn't have to do. I love that.
When you're the CEO of a business, you don't take a call about if the bathroom's leaking. You got people that handle that for you. You know what I mean? And that's kind of that's the example that I throw out a lot is Jessica's the CEO. She has stuff that she does. And I have no problem saying that she runs the business. She does her VIP. She takes care of her customers. I am not present in that side of the business. I very rarely will do anything to do with her, with her selling to her customers. That's very rare for me. I've done a couple of flash sales for her where I'll come in and I'll use StreamYard. I use StreamYard to do like a spin wheel game, and we'll really hit it hard. But that's only been a couple of times that I've done that. I just don't get involved in that. To them, that's special when I come in. She uses me when she wants to have a big sale, or if we just did a catalog launch with our business. And, we had a lot of things that are retired now that you're not gonna be able to get anymore. So we went live and we did a big sales of Palooza, basically, where we were, spinning the wheel for prices. And we were, every so often we would, throw things in and we would have a good time. It was exciting. So they get excited about that. And that's something where Jessica can really focus on that aspect of her business, growing the actual sales part of our business. And I work on the admin. I work on the back office. I work on stuff that tries to help other people's teams grow. And then, of course, with direct sales, that helps us too.
Right. Well, and I think you guys have just done such a good job, at least from the team side, because I'm obviously not in Justice VIP group, but of you both being visible. So I feel like the team knows that we have support. So it's like basically we have two uplines instead of just Jess. And I have no doubt that has helped grow you all's business tremendously, versus if you had been the husband at home, like, okay, I'm not, like, you can do your thing, but I'm hands off. I think your business would have looked completely different had that not.
And I think a lot of it
happened.
I don't know that I helped grow the business as much as maintain it. Because what happens what happens is in direct sales, when you really get hot, I mean, you have this kind of moment where you've really got to put the foot down on the gas pedal and take care of every advantage that you can. And then when everything starts to kind of level off, I mean, this is any business. It's not just direct sales. You're going to have that initial boost, man. You might get 10 customers that are really hot on something, and then all of a sudden 5 of those people have signed up, or 5 of those people have brought in somebody new to your boutique or your Etsy store or whatever. All of a sudden you've got this influx of new business, you've got this influx of new opportunities. And then 5-6 months down the road, have you maintained that business and grown? And I always end my lives with onward and upward, because if we're taking even a 1% step forward, that's better than a 1% step back. And, with direct sales, you can't always do that. I mean, that's just being real. I mean, we have been, our struggle. We've been in the, right in that pocket for 18 months where we're trying to take that next step. And that next step is a national type of situation where we would be in a national level. And that's a big step. I mean, if you're sitting on that precipice, a lot of it's just maintain for the next wave. And I think that's what me and Jessica and I have been able to accomplish together, is the fact that we have maintained through. Not everybody's been able to do that. There's been a lot of people fall off, and that's unfortunate. And I don't credit that. I mean, I credit that a little bit to myself, but that's mainly Jessica. I mean, I've been able to help her. I've been able to help her kind of navigate and things like that. But I mean, it's really just staying focused and working together and trying different things. I mean, we've tried so many different things, and really, I mean, I think the biggest thing is, when COVID happened and everything started to change, I mean, that's what really pumped our brakes. Rather than grow, we went into maintain mode. We went into growing the sales side of our business in hopes that once everything kind of, gravitates on the other side, hopefully we will be in a better position to continue to move forward.
Yep. Yep. Awesome, Jared. Well, is there anything else you want to share before we hop off here? Anything I didn't bring up or
I'll tell you,
just on your heart?
I think the biggest thing from a husband's perspective, I think a lot of times, you just don't ask the questions and you don't bring it to the table. I can't stress that enough. Don't ask for permission, ask for help. And I think that's, you don't always need help, and that's fine too. I mean, you might be perfectly fine in your business without your husband or significant other or whatever, and that's fine too. But I think a lot of times you might find a benefit in just saying, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing. This is where I'm in the office till 11, 12 o'clock at night. This is what I'm doing here. And I'm doing it for this reason. I'm doing it because I want to I want to buy a pizza this weekend, or I want to take the kids to a movie, or, hey, that Disney trip that we're planning 6 months from now, I'm trying to save up for that. Or, hey, the car might need replaced in 6 months or a year. Hey, I'm saving up for whatever the reason is why. You clearly thought that starting a business, doing direct sales, doing something outside your comfort zone was the thing that you wanted to do. And I think a lot of times you don't even talk to your significant other or your spouse about that. You've got this idea in your head that you want to do something. And from a husband's perspective, I think a lot of times we feel left out. We feel hurt by that. We feel like we're not involved, and not that we want to take control. Some guys, specifically guys, they definitely want to rule, and that, that's unfortunate. And ultimately you can't deal with that. You have to deal with it on a case by case. But I can tell you more often than not, I believe that a husband just wants to be involved, just wants to feel like you're not in there, like, especially with direct sales, you're not just in there on Facebook all the time. And, oh, God only knows what you're doing on Facebook, or God only knows what you're doing on Instagram. And, there's a lot of it's just bring it to the table. It opens up the line of communications. It creates such a more trusting environment, and communication's key. Absolutely key.
Yep.
If we wouldn't have been able to communicate about our business, we would not be where we're at. And Jessica did ask for help. I mean, she did come to me and say, look, this is overwhelming. And ultimately, I think from a husband's perspective, if your significant other, your spouse, is in a position where you're sitting at home, like, I mean, I'm sitting at home, but I work. I mean, I basically work every day. I work the business every day, but I also have, pickup times with the kids, and I take care of all of that. And that's as big a help to Jessica as if I was, anything, right? Matter of fact, that's the pickup time right there. So, but no, I think
perfect timing.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, the communication piece.
Yeah.
And, if you're watching this and you're on our team, I certainly welcome you to reach out to me if you need something.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Jared. I know there are so many people who, and I'm definitely going to share this with even potential stylists who have talked to me about being nervous to talk to their husband, or the husband side of things. Like, this is definitely going to be something valuable for us to use.
Sure.
And guys, I interviewed Jessica probably about a month ago-ish on the podcast, if you were listening on the podcast, so you can find that. The interview is also up on my YouTube channel. Her podcast is actually my #2 most listened to podcast ever. It's really good, so make sure you check that out. I forget the title now, but she talked a lot about belief and finding belief in herself to build her business. And it was just really, really awesome. Jared, if people want to connect with you, where can they find you?
I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I don't have a presence. I'm working on that. Yeah, Jared Ledford. I think my Instagram's at Jared Ledford. Probably Instagram's probably the easiest way to get a hold of me directly, because Instagram's pretty well open. I think I've got my Facebook pretty well tightened down. But if you hit me up on Instagram, or hit up jessicaledford.com, I mean, you can contact me through there. I mean, Instagram's probably the easiest one, at Jared Ledford.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. I appreciate it very much, Lindsay.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.